Good evening to you. Yes, I'm talking to you. I'd like to give you a warm welcome to my hour of health and positivity here on CHMR or the internet, depending on where you're listening from. The program is called Annii Gets Healthy, and it's the radio vessel housing my experience with physical and mental wellness. After making a dramatic change in my lifestyle almost 2 years ago, health has become my passion. The promotion of active lifestyle and mindfulness of eating habits is something I have been delving into recently, with this show being the most comprehensive space to air what is on my mind. As always, I will begin the show with a disclaimer that I am not a physician, a personal trainer, registered dietitian, or any licensed health practitioner. The topics I discuss on the program relate to my own experience and that of my guests. I may also cite the opinions and findings of researchers and professionals in the field. I may also cite books, articles, and journals. Not everyone will agree with the opinions expressed on the show, and that's perfectly all right. In fact, I invite open dialogue on any avenue it can be housed upon. The best way of reaching me for any particular reason is on Instagram. Sharing the name of the show, you can find me at Annii Gets Healthy. That's ANNII Gets Healthy on both Instagram and Facebook, or at Annii K Health. That's ANNIIK Health on Twitter. I'm not very active on Twitter, but you can also email me at anniegetshealthy@gmail.com. So whether you agree or disagree, you want to tell me something that you'd like me to talk about or something that I'm missing that I'm not incorporating into what I learned about, please, by all means, reach out, let me know. I feel like a lot of people shy away from talking about a lot of issues of health, and I would much rather that somebody challenge what I'm saying than to shy away from a discussion altogether. I think that talking about health is the greatest thing that we can do to benefit all of us, so as I said, you have a question or concern, please voice it to me. Tonight, I am very privileged to welcome my friend Bo Simango onto the program. Bo is a researcher at the Walkabilly Lab at the School of Human Kinetics and Recreation here at Memorial University. The lab is run by Dr. Daniel Fuller, whose work on the Canada Research Chair focuses on the study of the relationship between built environment and active population. In a later episode, we will talk more about the lab and to Dr. Fuller directly, and some of the work that me and Dr. Fuller have been doing together. This episode, however, will discuss some studies going on in the lab right now, but that's not our primary focus here tonight. Actually, tonight we will be talking about a topic that I have been very passionate about for a little under a year, and that is the topic of intermittent fasting. The practice of intermittent fasting has been a hotly discussed issue lately, with more people trying it than ever, really. If you've never heard of intermittent fasting and alarm bells are ringing in your head, stick with me for a minute. Stick with me for the next hour, really. Me and Bo are going to talk about intermittent fasting, what it is, how it works, and the benefits we've experienced from incorporating this into our lives. But before we start talking, we're going to take our very first break of the hour. Annii Gets Healthy will return right after these messages. Welcome back to Annii Gets Healthy. As I was saying before the break, today we will be talking with Bo Simango, a researcher in the School of Human Kinetics and Recreation. Bo, welcome to the program.
Oh, thanks, Annii. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. So, a bit of backstory on, obviously we met working in the lab, but I didn't know you were into IF, and it happened we were doing this experiment.
We were.
And you've got to, all the listeners, you've got to picture this in your mind, how this conversation happens. So I'm wearing an oxygen mask, and I'm carrying these 4 cell phones and
wearable devices.
Right, and all of this crazy stuff is happening. I'm lying on a bed, sitting in a chair, running on a treadmill. Yeah, all of this fun stuff in the name of science. And I don't know how the conversation even started. I think it was, you were asking me, how I was holding out, and I was like, honestly, I'm just thinking about what I'm going to have for supper. I want to get home before my eating window closes, and your eyes lit up right away because you knew what I was talking about.
It was the cue to go.
Yeah.
Literally to ask you must do fasting.
Yeah,
and then that started the whole conversation.
And what a conversation it was. We had to make sure that it was not going to interrupt with the data, our passionate discussion while
Exactly.
I'm here running on the treadmill with this backpack and oxygen mask on, and we're just ranting and raving about this great thing because obviously, I find that the people who do intermittent fasting, who've been doing it for a while, love it. And it's a great thing to talk about because it freaks people out.
True.
When people don't know what it is, they get so... And, I don't know, in the world that we live in right now, where there's so much pseudoscience and so much of this, like... On the internet, sometimes they refer to it as woo insanity, where people get on with all this, like, anti-vax stuff and all that. And it's hard to tell the truth from the trick sometimes.
No, you're right. You're right. You're so right about that.
And so the great thing about IF, because I remember, I'll discuss my introduction to IF, and I can't wait to hear more about yours.
Yeah.
But for me, I had already lost maybe about 110 pounds. And this was about... Christmas of last year, Christmas of 2017, I was getting a bit paranoid that, because the experience for a lot of people who lose a lot of weight is it comes back.
Exactly.
Right? That people keep up the good habits, but as you likely know, and as I wish more people in the kin department would realize, calories in, calories out is a flawed system.
It is.
And when you stick with it, you'll get results for a while.
You do, yeah.
You absolutely do. Yeah. And then, by best efforts, the weight comes back. If you make any modification that brings you closer to where you were when you started, the weight's going to fly back on. Yeah. At Christmas, I wanted to buy myself a little Christmas gift. Because, the best Christmas gifts that you get are the ones that you go out and you buy yourself like a $25 book to take out, wherever you're visiting for the holidays. And I bought a book by a man named Dr. Jason Fung. And I love this guy. My dream is to talk to him one day. He's written 3 books now, but this book is called The Obesity Code. And he deals with people with like end stage or just like late kidney diseases. And a lot of these people are diabetic. A lot of them are obese. Yeah. And he helps to treat these people with diet. To be honest with you, in terms of medical doctors, that's a pretty revolutionary mode of treatment.
Big time.
There's a chapter in the book that it really simplified the whole weight gain idea, and the chapter is called I Can Make You Fat. And the first few lines go, I can make you fat. I can make anybody fat. What do? I prescribe you insulin.
And that's the trigger for weight gain.
That's the trigger for weight gain. And so I went from this, like... Because once again, to lose the weight is one thing. I wouldn't have been able to do this show after losing 110 pounds based on that alone because I didn't know how I did it. I'd flirted with so many little, like, things, and I was really active, and you don't really know at the end of the day what did it. When I read that book, I became a lot more aware of carbohydrates, but I became, like, my focus really was the fasting. Because the moment that I read it, it seemed very easy to me. And I think that's the biggest thing about IF that people don't realize is that it's so easy.
So easy.
Like, and I'm not trying to downgrade anybody who has a really serious obsession with food and you can't stop thinking about it, but I will say, I'm a person who has had an insanely unhealthy relationship with food. Yeah. I've been like addiction territory with food. I find, if anything, IF helps me deal with that. It challenges your obsession with food. Because if you know there's no food coming in for 16 hours, 20 hours, 24 hours, 36, whatever it may be, the moment that you start thinking about food or getting physically hungry, you've got things to deal with that. You know food is not an option.
Yeah.
And so you're not there fantasizing about, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that.
And Annii, do you find like that discipline overextends to certain facets of your life? Like, for instance, just your discipline with how you view food also extends to like perhaps how you do work. You can get into these deep zones of like just focus and work away. Yeah, because I'm the same way.
I love having conversations with you. We can just talk about anything, so I'm going to watch that. So before we go into talking about fasting, I want a quick backstory on you.
Yes.
So what is your primary field of interest, and what brought you to Memorial?
So what brought me to Memorial back in 2006, I pretty much applied to Canadian institutions. And I applied to Memorial University, and they were the first ones to respond, applied to 8 universities. And so I kind of waited out, so that I could hear back from the other universities. But my parents told me that, well, you could lose your spot, which was, I wasn't familiar with that because I was just in high school at that moment in time. So long story short I did an undergrad in mechanical engineering. And then afterwards, I finished, went out west, was working in the oil and gas sector, but I was living in Montreal, spent a bit of time in Toronto as well, flying back and forth. And now I'm back doing my master's. So my master's is essentially at the intersection of computer science and population health or public health. Yeah, so that's currently what I'm doing right now.
And that's how you ended up in Fuller's Lab.
Exactly. That's how I ended up in Fuller's Lab, which is a very interesting, environment because you have people from so many different disciplines. I mean, you told me that you did computer science and then you did...
Yeah, I was in what's called a programmer analyst was what I did in college. And so, yeah, it's essentially computer science, but it's really focused on the on the not just the coding side, but the planning side of things as well, the project management side. Yeah, no, it was definitely a weird background when you're in HKR now, but it's been helpful for this project. And I mean, you wouldn't be able to do the work that you're doing now, I wouldn't say.
No, I wouldn't be. For instance, if I was still in core engineering, I don't think I would have been exposed to, say, machine learning or classification algorithms and so forth. And I find that the environment is such a nice, high-charged environment where people are just exchanging ideas. I mean, look at the fact that when we talk about almost everything. The last time we were talking about your scooter, which is a nice scooter, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's a really great environment. We've got people from different backgrounds, and we're just cross-pollinating ideas and so forth.
Which is the greatest thing about HKR, I find, is even just if you look at people who are just in HKR, you've got such a great intersection of the hard science, the social science, and then that intersection in the middle of the PE people who are doing the social science, who are doing the physical science. And once again, on the other side, you've got your kin, and then you've got me on the other side of recreation. And there's just so much interflow, and everybody has to do electives, so you're going to be in classes with kin people, with TR people, with people who want to do OT or PT. You're always meeting people who have a goal that's different from yours.
Exactly. Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
I
love that. I really do. And when you look at the fact that the team comprises of people doing PhD in computer science and people from PhD GIS and so forth, I think it's really, really fascinating because it opens up the aperture of what in terms of physical activity, what you know about built environments, and I think what Dr. Fuller, and active populations as well. So I think Dr. Fuller is doing a fantastic job.
I agree. What helped me a lot is I'm learning how to be a bit more formal in my writing since I've come, and that's something that I wasn't really expecting to grow in here. But I mean, I'm going into a social sciencey sort of a field, so I think it's really good that I'm getting this advancement in my writing skill now, and not like a year down the road.
Exactly. Yeah, you're so right. And I forgot to mention as well that I'm originally from Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, exactly.
That was actually one of my questions. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So
that's my question. So yeah.
Yeah. So originally from Zimbabwe, come from a family of 4. 2 of my sisters are here in Canada.
Oh, nice. Where are they?
One is in Vancouver. She graduated. She did political science here. The other one is in Halifax. She went to St. Mary's and she did sociology.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's nice to have family.
What has she done since sociology?
So she's actually working at St. Mary's right now. She's working with student housing.
Oh, cool.
And the one in Vancouver, she's working at Scotiabank. Yeah,
very nice. Yeah. So what? So are you working on master's degree right now?
I'm working on a master's degree at this moment.
Okay. Yeah. So what visions do you have for your career post degree?
You know what? I've been thinking about that a lot, Annii, and I think I don't want to tie myself down. I think I've always wanted to embrace, and assert my difference. Of having an engineering background, but having worked in a number of different fields. For instance, I've worked in telecommunications, I've worked in mining, I've worked in oil and gas. So in a way, I think curiosity is my guide. So I'd like to be able to leverage the work that I'm doing right now with Dr. Fuller and the skill sets that I'm, gathering right now and apply them in something that is, I don't want to say unique, but something that's in our near future. And I feel that what we're doing right now is also part of that, built environment. Because when you look at, I don't know if you're familiar with Google's work in Toronto.
No.
They're building a 21st century city. So it's a built environment where it's complicit with sensors, it could be any type of sensor. It could be location-based sensor, human sensors, and so forth. But how does a human being interact with the environment where it can